really want it to be interactive. So ask lots of questions. Your point of view, whether it's just, if not more valid, or what is not. So please join in.
Yep. Okay. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that there are only two old parts here in the West. I'm not that old. I'm thinking, yeah. Thank you. So, you know. Sorry?
Have you heard of Pond Bridge?
I've also been to Korea.
First, you were asking about what do you think a potential reason could be, and in my
So
mind,
is that true in the first place? Yes.
it's the way we talk about millennials. What do we always say when we talk about millennials? Oh, they grew up with that.
Yeah.
So we're automatically making a division between the young people who automatically we assume we know it, but also saying at the same time everybody old does not know it. So immediately in the discussion we go there into two different parties, which makes it kind of socially accepted not knowing it.
There is an initial resistance, fear, and then joy actually of somebody who travels for the first time, your dad calling you, your grandma calling you, FaceTime for the first time. It's almost like becoming a child again. So to me, it's a lot like Shakespeare's Outrageous Humanity. I'm not going to call it a problem, but really how do you then help overcome? So I think the entry point is very different for millennials.
So yeah, from my experience, that my mother now trying to use the Instagram, because the kids nowadays is using Instagram, so they need to follow the progress. So I think back to the church, so I think we can have the same language.
And if you create that barrier with that audience, they're never going to engage.
The phone, a lot of the applications is so small, and he has bad eyesight, so he doesn't really like
It's not designed.
holding it kind of like this. So actually, he's using mostly voice control, like most of the emails and messages.
I should be triggering it if I want them to listen to what I want to say to them. So the emotions are one part of the game, one trigger. And the other thing that you need to look at is the social motivations. The reason why people will rationally share your content. Because if they don't share your content, then you don't have any earned media. Earned media is when people are advocating for you. This has a real impact on yourself because from an ad it becomes electronic word of mouth. If my friend, my colleagues, parents share a video with me, I would pay much more attention to that video.
First thing by looking at all the sites within SSP and using academics and state university, but also using forums that's going to look at the different emotion and measure how the index for particular content. So if the content is either being funny or being hilarious, we can categorize and create those particular PMP packages into hilarious.
So for example, you're in a car, you've got a great video, it's been created to evoke inspiration and exhilaration to your audience. We would have worked to create a pool of publishers that we would have picked up, where the content is precisely about inspiration, exhilaration, extreme sport, speed, these kind of things. If that ad is seen in the right context, if it's relevant with the context, then people will engage. So if it's you're selling a watch and you like Patek Philippe and it's all about nostalgia, it's all about transmitting a legacy, we would create like a nostalgia PMP, for example. And we would find all those sections in the newspaper, in Compass, they have stuff about history or family, and when the ad is seen in that context, then people are engaging more naturally with it.
So how do you look at creating clutter-breaking creatives, which basically boils down to interruption? Because when you're talking about 30-second, you're talking about the functionality of the product. When you're talking about a long form, you're talking about a story which is more related towards a history or an emotion, and you're trying to kind of form a long-term association with your target audience, right? So the whole concept of when we look at breaking down a bigger creative or a bigger commercial, which is a long form, which is a 3-minute or a 4-minute, and we try to kind of get it down to a 30-second or a 15-second, that basically kills the creativity which has been
And it's true that you can't expect people to watch your 3-minute video when they are commuting in the train or in the bus in the morning, because it's going to suck on the data plan, and it's going to, connection might not be so good, and they will be bored too quickly, so they might not watch. 15 seconds would be good in that case. It's snackable, it's digestible, it's like food. 3-course meal when you've got time to eat it, 3-minute video when you've got Wi-Fi, you want to test, and provide the right cut for the platform that you want to use. Sometimes it's important to have a short form, it does a job, and it needs to exist. Sometimes the long form is also very important when you want it understood.
I think the challenge is how to create that journey for the users. Because that technology is how do you create something really engaging, whether
we test video on people. So we gather 500 people. We ask them to watch a video, and we measure their facial expression. So we activate the webcam to see how they react. There's only 7 expressions or emotions that you can see through the face. For pride, for example, there's no really facial expression, so we need a questionnaire. The brain works in 2 ways when we make a decision. Something that is very instinctive. That's where we look at the facial expression, when they smile, when they frown, when they're surprised. I think minimums of 500 people. We also use Nielsen EEG plugged on the brain to follow the brain wave and see how they move. So we test video. We test videos and we understand all the emotions that people feel through those videos, and then we put everything on the...
Number one, I was with him. He looked alive. Thank God. And so yeah, he's like, I think he's like, is it Mr. Bean that has also been reported like dead so many times? Anyway, so he's the Mr. Bean of Indonesia.
Our education system does not necessarily encourage students to ask questions, to doubt things, we were told to just accept whatever we're being taught. So if you're asking questions, why? And probably your teacher would say, because I say so, or your parents would say, yeah, that's what we need to know, that's what we need to understand, and that's it, without further elaborations and explanations. And that is probably, from my perspective, I'd say all of us who are enlightened are lucky project. But I'm with you, Renee. My mom is also the same. Ura, words, WhatsApp, share everywhere, and felt like I'm a messenger. I spread the news, but I was like, no, you step back with me first to see whether it's fake news or not. But it's a lot of work, but I think pointing fingers on whose mistakes it is not going to solve the problem. I think we could start sharing the responsibilities because, again, sitting here talking about this,
there is a lot of news floating around, right? I mean, and honestly, like you all said, we don't know if it's true or not. Of course, I will believe if BBC says something, or Compass says something. Of course, I will believe it. But we don't know what is true or what is not, and it's probably not even our job to know. We trust the media, we trust the reputable media sources, and that should never be our fault.
Where a lot of small sites, blogs and everything, create a content, provocative content, sites, Sarah dan lain-lain, they change the URL to kompas.com, Tribun News, kapan lagi, liputan and everything. We reported that several times. So now I think there's a lot of movement in terms of the context hoax by the portal-portal baru-baru yang bermunculan yang can easily create news that they just made themselves. So, and they got views because of Facebook. So probably instead of their own parents, Facebook should have this certification because number one distribution channel is Facebook.
So there aren't many news channels or news companies like Compass who have a very strong research and development. Litbang Compass is one of the strongest. And I think this is also what's lacking. I think we talked about this as well, is that like you said, news companies are very easily established. They don't have to have an R&D and they don't have to have a track checking. So Metro, you have an R&D.
My name is William. I'm from IDN Times. We're a publisher for millennials. We're responsible for 8 million content shares every month. and on social media, mostly on Facebook. Pak Edi made a very good point. Most media, digital media, has to race for speed. For us, if we compete on that, we'll lose.
I have two questions. I would like to ask Mr. from Kompas, Pak Edi. When you report about the media that make a false news, is there any action or from the government? And then second, for me, Kompas is one of the I can believe for what news is being released by the Kompas, because sometimes I don't have time to recheck is there any false or fake news. So I just believe that Kompas have an integrity for the news. What I want to know, is there any triple check or double check for the news before they release to the public?
Because we need the speed, but somehow, since we carry the brand name of Kompas, the online site cannot do like what they have to do, that they have to stick through the integrity of Kompas. So our reporters on the street cannot publish the news immediately. It has to be fact-checked by the editor in the office. But sometimes, even the editors in the office also got pressures to publish as soon as possible. So, I mean, within a day, we publish 400 news a day. There has to be one thing that not really perfect or sometimes miscalculated. Waiting for the presidents to die because very badly sick and everything. We are waiting for 3 hours, preparing all the news before it happens, right? And then when we got the news, or 30 news published immediately. So those kind of things always. Tapi problemnya, the problem is that the speed itself is no longer the number one weapons for all the publishers. They realize that they need to have the balance between the accuracy as well. But I think getting back to the discussion, it's not about the media mainstream. Now we are talking about fake news created by the suddenly online media that got viral in the social media, right? Because the title is so provocative. Sometimes they publish the exact news from the TikTok, they just change the title and then it becomes viral. So I'm particularly want to specify the discussion on this part, not on the partisan media, not on the mainstream media, because this is the problem. This is all that I think that fuels the fake news. I mean, the traditional media has its fault, has their role as well in terms of partisan, in terms of their accuracy as well. But on this side, we have the problem. The suddenly portal apa sih? Ada portal namanya kompasdetik.com. Ada portal namanya kompasiana.detiksiana.com. There's so many those kind of things that immediately, I mean, they're using WordPress, they're using AWS, and then copy and paste, and then one time they publish their own news, they write themselves everything very fake and everything. So this is the problem. This is the main problem.
So I think coming back to the solution standpoint, what I think is as part of the ecosystem itself, especially regarding advertising, brand also could have a role in actually, let's call it, punishing the platform that is not like regulating the information that they have. One of the things that I think could help to mitigate the situation is for brand to actually think about the brand safety, where their ads will appear. So when if brand and also the media agency is starting to enforce that and starting to educate and also enforce the practice, I think a lot of the problem, especially for the people who create the portal just for the revenue purpose, it should be mitigated because of that.
Calls line today. So we work with media such as Kompas.com, Detik, Jakarta Post, The Globe, so many of the major media, and also online media like Tipui, Malas Banget, and everyone. So with our content partner in our portal, we work together with them to publish like every week. We have this Pope's News of the Week section. So many of the media has published, okay guys, sorry, this is a fake news. And then we posted it online today saying that, hey guys, this is a fake news. So there's like 5 fake news per week, for instance. So there is, I see it, there is also responsibility from the media to say that, okay, we made a mistake,
And yeah, we want to clarify it to our readers. That's why they have this hoax news of the day. And I also talked to the Ministry of ICT just last week, and we supported the program. So the Ministry of ICT has seen that this hoax, fake news thing is becoming big. So from their standpoint, they have a site called trustpositive.id. So people can report if they found fake news or anything. Trustpositive.id. Trustpositive, yeah. Jadi if they found fake news or anything, they can report to the ministry. They have a cybercrime division thing under Pak Semi, under Dirjen Aptika. So the government has also like tried to make a move to save the people from this fake and hoax news thing. So and I think also it has to be coming from everyone that is we are consuming news 24/7. Right? So it has to come from, the publisher, the news aggregator service, the government, and also ourselves and everyone. So we don't, create provoking things, we don't create chaos or something like that.
Yeah, from a technical point of view, I'm not really sure because I'm not a technical person, but is there a way that once it's known that this link is fake news, is there a way that it can be censored, deleted, or whatever? No.
There is a link for report news, right?
In programmatic advertising, this is exactly what brand safety tools do. So it could be an extension of brand safety to say that these are rejected articles and that no advertising dollars will go to them. So in effect, the funding for these things is...
Okay, so the tools are there. The way is there. The solution is somehow clear. We need to now start. So it's a combination of everything. So I'm going to do some shameless self-promotion a little bit because Google was mentioned. So again, I think Google has started a couple of things, and the other thing that they have created instead of, aside from just monitoring the negative content, is actually pushing for positive content. So the Habibi Center is one of many organizations that are now currently working with Google to create more positive content, in particular addressing the issues in Indonesia about race, religion, and all of that. So because the heightened, with the elections and with not just the Jakarta elections, but in several different conflict areas, we see this is happening. There's contents out there that is negative, that is actually driving people towards violent conflict. So we and a number of institutions like Ma'arif Institute, Wahid Foundation, Cameo Project, and a number of other organizations are now working with Google to create more positive content. And our program is actually promoting, training an army of content creators, positive content creators on issues of intercultural, interfaith, and communities and everything. So look out for that. Our program is called Cafe Cerita, and so it's going to be rolling out soon, and it will be on YouTube as well.
As I promised before, we're going to play with our phones, so that's always a good idea. And this time, normally we always say, don't play with your phone, be present. This time I'm going to ask you to actually play with your phone, because we're going to demonstrate technology that allows communication, interaction with what we call the untouchables. As you all know, anyone who has kids these days, your kids don't watch television anymore. They're either on YouTube or they're on something else.
Sorry. Okay, so when you go with beyond where the access points ranges, you won't be able to use the application. So it's a proximity-based application. They're one of the limitations. But I mean, moving forward past that, we're looking at people who connect to a network, especially being in Indonesia, where most people have prepaid. You don't need to connect. You don't need to have data on your phone anymore. It's free to use. You can watch movies for as long as you want. You can engage in any type of information, and it's essentially free.
I push next, and then I share it on Facebook. Every post, I can share it on Instagram, Twitter, and Tumblr. So wherever it's shared, every view, like, comment, and share that happens, it's tracked. There's a wallet in here, okay? I have a wallet, and then what I do with that is there's my wallet, okay? I have 799,000 jets, that's basically $80 US. I then go into the shop, here, and then I can buy the product. that I've been engaging with. So it's the whole circle of content to commerce. Okay, so what is the value? I want to open it up to you guys. The value for users is the users they're making a choice to bring your brand into their lives, a brand into their lives on their face value. They're sharing that brand and they're getting something in return from any engagement that happened. They're getting return. And what they're doing with that, they're hopefully buying your product in the shop. Okay, so that's the value to the brand, to the users, and obviously, of course, the brand is very important with millennials. We in many countries in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia, we're growing quite quickly now as well, is that you want to be part of their lives without intruding. Give them options. They need to have choice when to choose things, to create content, and they need to have choice to buy things. Okay? So the technology is advanced in that that can now happen. You can track your sales and your engagement all in one place. So so the power of selfies is of course very, very important, because now you have a value for your face. You share it, you create cool videos and things with your friends, and the more you share, the more money you can make. Alright, so
and what are people checking out now in terms of products? Like, is it whatever is available, or is there a trend like in what they're converting their value to?
So generally, it varies across markets. Okay, so in the beginning of the market, you aggregate products from e-commerce stores, Lazada, Zalora, etc., that gets delivered. But as brands come on board, the trends of the FMCG, the cheaper products, so cool drinks, milk, waters, things like that. That users want to buy quickly, yogurts, things that they can consume quickly. So the lower the SKU price, the faster it moves. But it works across all sorts of products, because when they're engaging with a brand and they go into the shop, the first products they see are the products they've been engaging with. So face creams, all sorts of things like that people can associate with. So it's across the board, but generally the SKUs of lower prices move quicker. So generally the frames have a little logo, and the animated stickers don't have a logo, but they have the hashtag. And actually the split's about 50-50. Users are not shy. Users are doing this anyway. They're making selfies, they're creating stickers, they're creating cool content. You've seen those pictures of big ears, and they're doing that. They're editing and they're adapting their photos. The only difference is that you have to say a message, right? So the millennial must say something like, "I love my mom. My friends are cool," or like TGI, thank God it's Friday, or whatever. I mean,
you're so not millennial.
Okay, you can target them like that. You can also target age, and also if you want to target, for example, if you want to target mothers, you have to say something that's creative, because any woman can be a mother, right? So you just create friendly stickers as like this one, "I love my mom," or "My mom is cool," or you have one like a Superman type logo, Super Mom. So something that says a mom, and then you actually tell the users what to post. You say, make sure if you're a mom, post with your baby, because you're going to earn jets. And the users listen. It's unbelievable. So I can't show you now. The percentage of people posting to Instagram as well is in Indonesia is double that of any other country in Southeast Asia. So the reach is much bigger in Indonesia because people are posting to more places. So every market's different. If you look at the device,
didn't work out on the retailer level. So your marketplace is like, it's almost like a triangle, right? There's you guys as a platform, there's brands, there is people taking photos, but then there's where you go to convert, right? The retailers, the Indomark, Alphamart.
Yes.
We have massive issues on the collection side of things. Like, do you have the same problem?
Very good question. So when you start, okay, we deliver products to the homes of users in every country. Okay,
wow.
So we get the products from the FMCG companies, we store and we deliver outsourced. Okay, but what we've just done in Vietnam and next month in Philippines and agreed today in Indonesia with retail stores, you take a selfie and in the shop you have a gift certificate for a can of Pepsi or yogurt. You click on it and you get a code, and you go into the convenience store and you have the device at the till point, percent or 25%, so you can see the impact in the platform.
Yeah, no, we never thought about putting them on the store itself. And they're like, do you have internet on the store? But yes. Okay, so we can hook it up. No. We can give you an Excel sheet every 2 days about the vouchers that are being converted, and you can put back on your app. I'm like,
I mean, how many times do we get out and click on that 5-second almost every week? I don't want to be seeing ads. So will the 7% will polygamy increase or will it decrease?
Yeah.
Polygamy will increase. Will increase. So 7 will become 0. but yeah, I mean, it's already pretty low. It will just become
right. When basically digital was not as elaborate or as many options were available. All you could do was, take out a newspaper ad, put a couple of spots on television, maybe put radio, and that's it, right? And the guy, when he leaves his home, right, he reaches his office, there is no internet available to him, he's not watching TV, so like 8 to 9 hours of that period, he doesn't have any brand resonance. I think just coming from a brand, it's super important. You can, at the end of the day, look at Zara. Zara doesn't even advertise. Right? They hardly do any sort of investment. But there are people who go to Zara very regularly, and they go there because they know that when they go there, they're going to get something which is for a short period of time. They're not going to go get it like in the next 15 days. It's that time. It's going to be very up to date, very kind of trendy, very affordable. So, brands like Zara, H&M focus very heavily on their product, and that's what they need to do. Similarly, for any brand, I would say, at the end of the day, you need to focus on for me, I need to focus on the experience that a person gets when he gets into my restaurant, the food that he gets. And you need to continue building on that. Because at the end of the day, everything being equal, people would compare the actual product that you're getting. And if we make sure that is strong or stronger than the competition, they are bound to cut through the clutter and compete.
Yeah. Any other good things? What titles are we going to see in the agencies? What are you going to call your colleagues? I'm going to bring my AI director to the next meeting, and how fast is it going to go, right? Indonesia is one thing. I think Indonesia is still very traditional. I've been here only 4 years. I meet a lot of the families. So essentially we have this father problem that we have to kill a lot of fathers of Indonesia to get to the next level. But as long as the fathers are here, I think a lot of the traditional thing, because marketing perceived as his daughter is doing marketing. She can spend some money on marketing, it's okay. And so it makes it difficult here. But in a lot of the other, in Australia, it's a completely different game. In Singapore, different game. In Europe and Asia, Europe and US, it's a different game. But how's it going to look here? What do you think is going to happen on your floor next year? What are the skills you're going to have, and what are the skills that's going to disappear?
I think, firstly, on the subject of titles, because I'm new to Asia, I've only been here 6 months. I think globally, we're just going to see less titles altogether. You now get, I think most of the tech companies, they don't have titles on their business cards, and it's about your skills, and I think people don't want to be boxed. But Asia's a bit, what I do know is that title and that progression is very important to people. So I think it's going to take longer here. But I think titles will be quite fluid. I think clients see straight through AI director and these kinds of...
I kind of agree. So it's not about titles. Actually, I'm looking for the person. So whoever that person is, I'm looking for example, you. I know how good she is. So whatever the title, it doesn't matter to me. As long as I know her, how good she works, and that's it. So I'm just going to talk to her, very direct and everything, all strategy, and that's it. And I know she will deliver. So it's not about the title, it's about the quality of the people behind it.
But to know that, it takes time.
Well, people talks. There's recommendations and everything, and we see how the outcome. So the good thing is actually the years will talk. So sometimes you can have an instant learning. There is steps that you have to do. But sometimes, yes, we have to learn how to make it faster. So that's something that we are kind of, sometimes we want to make it fast, but the skill is not there yet. So how we help between us, clients, agencies, whatever, that we have to help each other.
Anybody can succeed, the clients believe.
Yeah.
So if you when something happens on their side or your side, if you clean it up, it seems to build a relationship. I think it's very important.
I had experience with them. I'm not going to say what, who, but sometimes what I can say is actually because us and the clients digging so detailed, so long time and everything, we know. And when they come to us, they're going to ask what we know. So when they make recommendations, stupid enough, they kind of steal what we did. To me, it's ridiculous and it's dangerous for them. Yes, they can do some fancy language, whatever it is, but at the end of the day, what is exactly the outcome? At the end of the day, you're just gonna recommend something that we did in the past, and we know it's not gonna work for whatever reasons, and you're just gonna push that, till that. So that is also something that when you go with your agents, what you call it, like your strategic agencies and everything, be careful. So that's only one.
I'll give you one funny story there. I was with the essentially biggest client in the world called Best Buy, and I was in their boardroom going to meet with one of the directors. And great meeting, I was looking forward to that. And on the board, it says, "No more Accenture." It says on the board. Yeah, they didn't remove it from the previous meeting. So I have a picture of that.
I want to add about the titles. Yeah, I think it's gonna be fluid, especially now young people. Well, they might not have the experience enough, but they learn faster than me. Although I've been in industry for quite long, but they just came 2-3 years, but they've learned so fast, and then suddenly they become the star. So the title is going to be very fluid. And back to your comments about how about in Indonesia, because Indonesia is very unique, as we say, quote unquote. Yes, it might take a little while. I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing because, well, we can sit back and relax. It's not gonna happen to us. But if we see the other part, the other side, back to your comment earlier about being comfortable in our couch, not daring ourselves to step out. For me, as Indonesian, now I have to think it's not about me making career in Indonesia. Now we are citizens of the world, and we need to step up to be part of the game as well. No matter how old you are or the title you have, maybe you're young or you're old, but that's the mentality that Indonesians should have, even though we still have more time to relax.
You look at countries like the States, and they have these archaic systems in place that they're protecting because, for example, I think their healthcare and their financial systems, they've got like 3 steps. If you pay by credit, go and see a doctor. And if they absolutely archaic, but they won't modernize, they won't automate it because thousands of people would be out of jobs. So there's a protectionist element going on there. In Asia, you've got less of those processes in place, so you can leapfrog. And I think that's what's really interesting here. That's why a lot of people in Western markets want to come to Asia, because they see that it's a straight to mobile market and that it's actually way ahead and adapting, and there's less constraints in place to prevent progression. Because I think other markets are actively fighting. I mean, I guess Uber's one example. The governments have been fighting it every step of the way. They're not. It's gonna happen. But yeah, I think that's the huge opportunity in Indonesia with the skills, is that you haven't got those dense processes sitting there.
So Bali is probably the biggest Indonesian brand around now. So I think one thing, if in the next 10 years, we're going to build your brand, change your brand, build your brand into a new global brand. Because the opportunity for Indonesia is to inherently get into international brands. You have the best chocolate in the world, the best coffee in the world, you have tons of good products, great engineers, lots of good things, but you suck when it comes to branding, right? Because nobody from abroad knows your brands, not only because you haven't been on TV. Now, if WPP was thinking forward, they would create gratis. And in gratis you go in and we're going to help you build your brand. Of course, with the expectation when we build your brand, we're going to be your executing agency afterwards. The cost for WPP to go and do that would be absolutely nothing. But they would own and win the Indonesian market tomorrow because they have the skills, they have capabilities, and they have the credibility, right? So if I were WPP, here's the 8th largest market in the world WPP could own tomorrow if they had foresight, right? But they have to be bold enough to say gratis. We can ask Mr. Sorel at 6:30 if he likes the word gratis.
You can ask him.
Yeah. I think he knows one Indonesian word, and it's tidak.
Are my team members, that's Edo, Andrew, and Yulan. So please feel free to introduce yourself so that we can get the mood of the conversation. Okay guys, so thanks again. So let me set the tone for this discussion. Basically, what we want to accomplish here right now is while you have a lot of experience targeting moms, or you are a brand who want to target moms, or you are a mom, what we really want to find out is that there are different kinds of behaviors, there are different kinds of patterns that we see, and a lot of the either media, vendors, or even data, PMP would tell you, certain behaviors of moms. But at the end of the day, what are we really doing to track them well? And are we actually efficiently tracking them, like in terms of recall and purchase intent? So basically, maybe at this point, we want to figure out, like for you guys, like if you would be open to it, like what has worked for you and what what the challenges are for you also when you're trying to target moms.
So basically we came from Pocket. So Pocket is actually a gaming network. So basically most of our inventory is a network. It's a gaming. So imagine this is a gaming. But interestingly that actually that most of our users are actually moms. So you can say that we have a data of 25% of women in our network is really high. I mean, if we compare between male and female, male is still a bit slightly high, but in terms of the female audience itself, we do have a very high number in terms of the women above 25 years old. So, yeah.
Basically, right now we're trying to find a way to actually cater more to advertisers like you, or even brands like you, because when we got into as a startup, when we got into this industry, we knew that we had a good product, but we stumbled upon this big surprise that apparently there's this missing this audience that we have, and we want to find out what's the best way to kind of push it to you guys, and what we find efficient to it, so that there are ways to effectively tap into this audience.
Or is it more of understanding their behavior or insights? Is that what we're looking at, or what?
Well, actually, what we saw is that when it comes to moms, they are actually avid gamers. And they actually take up a lot of video, because when they play games, whether it's in their mobile phone or wherever, they don't ever want to pay. While we have data like where's Alexei, for a lot, he has a lot of data definitely when it comes to purchasing behavior of moms. Like on our end, we have entertainment behavior for moms. It's like it's more of seeing the whole spectrum of their digital life and what becomes effective to them when it comes to advertising.
It's a little bit different because it's based on their basket size. So that's why I wanted to ask what was the main topic of what we want to achieve? Is it more of getting them to buy of a certain product, or understand where they are in terms of their, yes, madam?
Brands would want to reach the right audiences. Now, moms is one of the most important target group that we as a company, I'm sure Pocket also as a company feel is. So I think the discussion should be more about, we could mold it more about how we could reach these audiences. How do you identify these audiences? What extra does Pocket do to ensure that they are reaching the right audience, the advertisers reach the right audience? What steps do you take to ensure advertisers' ads are getting placed in front of moms and so on?
So I think for digital habit, I don't know if I represent most of the moms, but if I see from the mothers at school, for instance, what is the most digital habit right now aside from social media is also instant messaging. So I think that's why people say instant messaging is the new social media, right? Because you get news, fake news sometimes from social media as well. I myself do a lot of social media, I do games, but only games. A funny thing is I do games that my kids play. So I play games with my kids, right? So when they play games, I play games with them because I don't want them to play alone. And sometimes there are ads that I see in the game, but so far I haven't seen anything that attracts me or might attract my kids. And what else? I mostly just do social media and instant message aside from games for my kids. So that's all that I do. But that's a lot of my time. And emails, of course, work. Oh no, I don't have to. Yeah, okay, I work. I don't do pro bono MC all the time. I think I need to stress this. People might get the wrong idea. After 5 years, they might get the wrong idea. But I think also the most important is like for these moms, when I think word of mouth is also very strong. It's still a very strong ways of reaching them. Beforehand, maybe it's meeting at school, but now I get like a lot of information. For instance, things about lessons for kids, like swimming lessons or reading lessons or gymnastics, and we know this from instant messaging or from seeing other people's social media. So I get questions like, I saw you posting a picture of your daughter doing gymnastics. Where do you do it? How much is it? Blah 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 blah. So I think a lot of information are still word of mouth, but it's just like different channel instead of the olden days. I'm not revealing any age. Okay. Maybe other people wants to, mother of 3 maybe, or mother of 4.
Yep. I would like to share. I have 2 kids, 2 sons, and actually I want to share. In the office, I'm a marketer, but in family, I'm a mom. So nowadays, the problem is about the time. In Indonesia, especially, we have the consumer insight that 50% of the moms in Indonesia is spending 8 hours, more than 8 hours every day. So 50% of the moms spending their time more than 8 hours per day. So when we have the interview with the moms, what is your achievement in your office or your career? So many. But when we ask about what have you spending with your kids, so you're feeling guilty when there's a question like that. So this is an opportunity also for us as a marketer. There is an opportunity how to engage the moms in terms of emotional, not only the functional. And currently, the viral video in Indonesia, especially in Jakarta, in urban area, is very influential for us. Moms, especially when we look, when we get the video or sharing video with the emotional message or teary eyes like that, we are easier to share to our colleagues or our friends or another mom. So for me, as a marketer, this is a good opportunity for us how to engage about the emotional bonding about moms and kids, especially with the research that the social tension is about the time. How we manage the time between working moms and also the children.
To factor in that the inventory utilization in itself is low. So if they are sitting on a 50-60% inventory utilization, then passing on doesn't make sense. So if there's a significant volume in the market, then they will offload more. Yeah.
Because there's a huge gap between all those keywords that we talk about, which is positive. If you ask anyone to name programmatic, everything that we say is positive. But translated into the real growth in this market, in Southeast Asia especially, it is not justifying the benefits of programmatic. So we need to identify those indicators and start addressing them. It could be buy side, supply side, it could be perception, it could be education, it could be more data points to prove the value.
Let me add another one to that from a creative perspective as well. I find it quite interesting that there is this new industry which is attracting the best minds in the marketing industry right now and spending most of their time in trying to make this work. But it's all funneling down to, in most cases, display, which is a format that it's quite old for internet. Okay, there's now video. What about email marketing? What about own media? What about TV? Like you said, smart TV. As a creative, when I think that we're putting all this effort and the funnel, the end of it is that you're gonna show me a banner, I kind of cringe. I'm like, really? You know, can we do better? And when you go to video, it gets better. But most clients are not ready for video production in the quality and dynamic nature that programmatic brings to video. So video will have to be tailored for each kind of messaging, and that's a workflow that is tough even for creative agencies. But yeah, for me, that's the the roadblock from a creative perspective.
They give us actually the calculation and telling us, if you want to invest this amount of money, what is the result that you can get? Plus minus, not exactly the same, but plus minus you can get the number. So with that kind of calculation that given by Google, then actually you can challenge your agency. I mean, if they try to cheat you, then you know exactly actually how big is the engagement rate or whatever KPI you give to them, because Google can help. They're really helpful on that. Yes. So it's quite which has helped. It's really helpful.
I attend their presentation 3 times. They even go to our office 2 times, and they always bring the same presentation material. And yeah.
Not this time, because
okay,
you just
attended
it like last month in March.
Okay then.
This is what I attended to you all, but we want you to understand. Of course, I understand. This is still B2B, right?
Yes,
they're also selling their product anywhere. You know, Google, Facebook, or whatever. They're also selling. So what they do it to us, I understand behind that they want to sell something, but it also helps us to understand how our digital company or agency to run our program and then get the result, you know. So that's really helpful.
Publisher know what's best, right? They know how to tweak, they know how, instead of asking our agency to do some tweaking and keeping, I told them to just go with the publisher. So we already see the result after 6 months. So I think that's one of the things that you should.
Other business, but my business is there are 2 ways to do KPI setting. The first one is the top down. The top down. You have the KPI and you have to plan for 4 years, 5 years, and then you have to do the bottom up.